Hello and welcome to the Footballers Football Show here on PLZ Soccer. Joining me today is Scott Allan and our special guest is James McPake. Thanks for coming on today, James. First question for you, James, is what's the greatest lesson you could pass on to a young footballer based on the career you've had playing and managing?
For the playing side, I think it's just continue to work hard. You always need to do that. I think we can all say that, but you go through stages where things might not quite be going for you, but just keep the head down. And probably for the coaching, managing side, I think the biggest thing in what I've dealt with, in younger players certainly, is you're going to have setbacks. Whether it's a loan move that doesn't quite work out, you're not getting in the team and you think you should be in the team, or you're for them, or you're a million miles off it. So the two of them kind of interlink, but certainly for the coaching, managing point of view is that you're going to have to deal with setbacks and just face them head on and go through them if you want to get to where you want to be.
Obviously you picked up a few big injuries in your career. It's probably blighted your career. Do you ever wonder what heights you could have reached if you didn't pick up those big injuries?
Probably before getting into the coaching and managing side, I think if you can look at a good side of the injuries or a fortunate side, it's been getting into coaching early, getting the opportunity to coach 33, 34-year-old and coach your first team with Paul Hartley, with Neil McCann. So that the injuries certainly helped that. But obviously on the flip side of it, with the severity of them and the nature of them, they were major injuries, but ones that could have been avoided. Some will say that I could have avoided a certain one myself anyway, but no, you do get that wee bit at times. You look over the amount of games you missed, the amount of training time you missed, and it's something that does cross my mind and I wonder about time to time, yeah.
I think that question about regrets and to look back at what could maybe have been, I think in football we've all been through different things where sometimes it's going for you, sometimes it's not, but I think when you look back and even go back to when you're young and some of the players that you came through with who were fantastic players who didn't have a career, and guys who maybe had a season for 1 year and really hit form and then kind of fell away for the game. I think, look, from my point of view, and I think James will probably be the same, sometimes you look back and you go, as much as I had a lot of things that affected the longevity or maybe the level, but the fact that you had a career and there was a lot of good experiences for you, and amongst that's a big thing, because it's not easy to have a long career in football, as we well know. We've all played with players who you'd have thought went on to some big things and end up away down the league. So it's a question that everybody always asks about how does it feel, what do you have the regrets, but you got to accept that is part of the game, and in fairness to that, there's so much good things that can come of that as well, even as James touches on with the coaching side, because I was a player with him at Dundee and I seen him in the gym every single day, and then fast forward me being out for an injury, James coached me I came back for the reserves member away to Hearts, and I kind of felt like you were part of that journey. So as much as he said you were missing out in terms of playing, he was getting so much learning from doing the coaching side.
I think, Tam, on that, it goes to that first question, the setbacks that any player can have, young or old, it's get the best out of the situation. When
it's a mentality thing and be mentally strong.
Yeah, and I think when the knee injury came along, I was a bit older. I was at Dundee. I think at that point I had 2 kids as well, so it wasn't a case that I could, maybe with the back, and when I was at Coventry, you could just kind of focus solely on that, get yourself right. I was only maybe 26, 27 at the time, but when you fast forward, as Scott says, and you get that injury later on in your career, and again, I think it's relevant to whatever point in your career you're at, but I think just getting the best out of that situation, as I say, it gave me a chance to do the coaching stuff, to work in the gym and do the extra bit, and be honest, see what it's like to have to coach, because I was doing my rehab in the morning, then we played at Montrose. Our home games for Dundee under-20s at that time were Montrose, so you were doing that and you were taking sessions in the evenings and the Thursday night with Darren a day for the under-18s, and it showed you the other side of it as well. So
do you think that helped you going forward in your coaching career, that you were maybe started a little bit earlier than people usually start?
No, 100% it helped me in terms of where I was, and I'm off the back of 2 jobs now. I'm still at 40, and again, great from Paul Hartley and Neil McCann, because I think maybe at the start it was just a case of let's keep him involved. He's going to be out for a year. The likelihood is he's not going to get back. And the club as well. The club were fantastic with that in terms of the surgery, the rehab. And then for those two to bring me into their kind of coaching staff, and it wasn't easy. As I say, I'm in the dressing room and I'm driving up in the car with them or whatever, and then I'm in and like
you feel part of it, but you don't feel part of it because you're not playing on a Saturday.
Probably.
Which is a hard thing.
But even on the coaching side, there must have been a wee bit like you, Gowser, Big Daz, the ones in the car and thinking he's getting in and speaking to the manager or he's doing wee bits and pieces on the training pitch. It took me a wee while to get used to that. Was I a player? Was I a coach? Was I an injured player that was just doing a wee bit of both? And it was frustrating because I was desperate to get back on that side. But then the more coaching I'd done, I was desperate to be a coach. So I was kind of getting pulled.
You think of the players as well that we're now seeing, obviously Lyall Cameron, obviously signed a pre-contact with Rangers, a player that obviously you worked with quite regularly, didn't you? And I remember you telling me how good this kid was.
No, the three of them that at the minute are the ones that jump out and they play most weeks is Josh Mulligan, Lyall Cameron and Finlay Robertson. I think they're all over 100 appearances for Dundee each and fantastic. And I think, again, the club, for what they're trying to do, they've obviously lost Lyall to Rangers and Finn signed a new deal. I don't know what will happen with Josh, but they have those in the one youth team, or the one age. Max Anderson obviously moved to Crawley for a fee. So we had a few and that was brilliant. And again,
do you think having that kind of quality and nurture helps the early part of your coaching career because you know, listen, I've got a chance here to really have an impact on these boys and get them into that first team?
No, just their ability. I think what really helped was their attitude. Like they're different. I'd put those three young kids apart. And I've worked with some really good kids that have came from Celtic, Rangers on loan, and at Dunfermline certainly we signed those players and made them permanent. But the attitudes of those three, they were at 14, they were desperate to be footballers. They could take the other side of it, whether it be the working hard, the criticism. That's not to say going over the top because they could take it, but they knew when it wasn't at the level. They were training with under 18s and playing with the reserves, but in their own heads they were desperate to get in the first team, and I've not seen that out with it. There'll be loads of them.
Why do you think that is? At a club at Dundee, they had that type of mindset and freedom at the same time.
I think they pushed each other on, just the way they all wanted to be. Finn made his debut. Finn started in my first game. He'd done a hire through the week and played live on the TV at the weekend. Yeah. Josh Mulligan come on, Lyall would have come on had Darren Day not been sent off in the game. So they were all at school. But I think because they come through, they were playing with the reserves at 14, 15, whatever it was, getting to train with the first team, and they got a wee taste for it. But they kept at it, and I don't think it's a coincidence now you see them. They've played, I think Josh Mulligan's Dundee's most capped Scotland under 21 international. Lyall's just moved to Rangers. Finn, talking about setbacks, he had an injury, started his career great, playing in derbies as a 16-year-old, excellent in them, looking well above his years. Then he has a nosedive. His career just goes...
Loan deals as well.
Yeah, loan deals that didn't work as well, and I was part of that. The injury stalled him, and then he goes on loan, but anytime you speak to him, it was always a case of, you're doing this for yourself, you're doing it for Dundee, and to be fair, the kid's listened, he's done that, and now he's back playing, he's just signed a new deal, so I'm sure it is, but for the freedom, he played over 100 times at their age, and going Lyall now, delighted for Lyall to go and get that move, and it's one I think that will work for Lyall, for Rangers as well, because he's a fantastic player. But I just think they pushed each other, and they were that desperation to be footballers, which sadly is lacking.
It's lacking now. Just talking about the car journeys there. Obviously travelled up with wee Gowser. Who was the car? Who was the car school at Dundee then travelling up?
So it was
Gowser.
Marcus Haber.
The Gowser had his tag on at this point, or no?
Nah, a couple of times we had a couple of spells where he had the tag.
Paul McGowan. Just in case everybody's Gowser's Paul.
The tag, I think the first time he had the tag, I was still playing, but
he did have the tag,
and he had to chain it on.
Aye. No, but even he couldn't go to. I think the first time he couldn't go to night games because it had to be in the house 77. But obviously getting for Dundee to Airdrie to 7 o'clock after a game, we didn't get a shower after the games.
At the same time, he had to find his way from Airdrie to Cumbernauld because he couldn't drive. Mind?
Couldn't drive either.
Couldn't drive. No, he was his taxi.
Great boy though.
That was a funny car school, to be fair. But Gowser and Jazza were always at each other.
Scott, who's your best three players that you want to travel up in a car with?
Good question.
Over the years, all your car schools, who's the top three for you?
Based on
banter and...
Yeah, banter. That was the funniest out all of them because that was carnage, to be fair. Dundee United, we were a bit younger. So myself, obviously Johnny Russell, Barry Douglas, John Rankin, so not as quite the same characters, you know.
They seemed quite sensible.
That was quite a sensible one, to be fair. After that, Hibs, Dylan McGee, Dylan was quite an acquired taste for some. No, but Dylan wasn't like that. Dylan was dead quiet. Dylan was kind of kept himself to himself. So me and him would go through, start off for a wee coffee. But that was maybe my highlight at the time at Dundee. Was that car school every day. I genuinely looked forward to.
That's your three then. The Dundee boys.
There was more than three, wasn't there? Mark O'Hara was in that as well. We did a big veto thing. Sixes. Mark O'Hara, Marcus Haber, Jazz, Dan Day, Paul McGowan, and myself.
What about you, Jazza? Livingston?
Nah, that one. Although
Dundee.
The Dundee one was great, but probably at the start and the end of my career, you go back to the times before, and any time you've got Snoddy and Dorans in the one motor as well, that's carnage. So I've been involved in a few of them, but no.
That was the minibus stories I used to hear for that Livingston group.
They just a minibus and just pile into that.
Aye, Big Roddy McKenzie would drive the minibus.
Played with Roddy, played with Roddy.
He'd offer £2 in or whatever.
How did your move to Livingston come about, James? How did that? Were you playing boys club and Livingston picked you up? Or?
Boys club or school team, just run about. Again, it's a strange area. At the time, Livingston were getting players from everywhere. Obviously, you talk about Snoddy and Dorns. We'd get picked up at Newhouse. Obviously, the Glasgow boys would be picked up for Glasgow. So just playing probably the school team at St Pat's and Coatbridge and then going up there, going full time. It was great. Really, at that point.
Who was the other young? And was Griffiths there as well, and Dorans and Snodgrass?
Dorans and Snoddy there from probably a year after me.
They had good players through every. That was a tough game when it was young and it was youth initiative. Even when I was in Dundee, it was a tough game going to play Livingston because they had players from everywhere.
I even think that the ones before me, Tam, when they were good then as well. You always had good teams at Hibs as well, but I think they done it right at that. What they perceived was right with the youth academy. Unfortunately, by the time. And it maybe helped us in the end with the financial troubles, but they had that much money from somewhere at some point anyway that the young players weren't getting a chance. So it was as much as they were financing this brilliant academy that was producing young players like Murray Davidson. I think he played for Scotland, Dorns played for Scotland, Snoddy played, Griffiths played, Andy Halliday was in our youth teams or the first team even at that point.
And they literally moved to Middlesbrough from being the top goal scorer for Livingston in the third division at the time. He was a striker. You'd never think that.
I think when you look at what they had done previous though, like Snoddy moves to Leeds, it wasn't quite working for Snoddy, just with John Robertson at the time. Snoddy went out and loaned to Stirling Albion. Miles too good to be going anywhere. Like, we were struggling at Livingston at the time, so we could have been doing with Snoddy. So he goes to Leeds, that worked. Dorans went to West Brom, that worked. I went to Coventry. I wouldn't say it worked anywhere near the level, but it was still a progression from Livingston to an English team. So I don't think it was too much of a risk when you seen Andy and coming through that just because it had happened as well. And Andy was a good player and he went on and had a
Who gave you your debut at Livingston? Who was the manager?
Davy Hay.
Yeah.
David, I think it was away to Hibs you might have played.
Some part anyway.
I'm a big come on as a sub.
I bet you scored, I'll check that. Aye, Davy, away to Hibs.
So were you part of the cup winning? Were you part of the cup winning squad, or were you too young?
No, I was part of it, but me and Ryan Harden were unstripped. I think you go back now. I think there were maybe only 5 subs or something. You go back to it now. And
was that what that was? 5 subs for about then?
Would have been.
I've still got PTSD about that game, and because obviously we'd beat Celtic in the quarterfinals and Rangers in the semi-finals, and we were probably favourites going into that game. I don't know why, because Livingston are a really experienced team.
Who was the standouts for Livingston in that team?
Well, Stuart Lovell was there. David Fernandez was a very good striker.
Jamie McAllister then.
Jamie McAllister, Davy McNamee. Aye, they had a really experienced team. We were probably favourites because we had a lot of exciting young players coming through. But I remember at the game, I think Hibs had 40,000 fans there, and we had Livingston maybe 3 or 4. I can't remember off the top of my head, and that was the biggest disappointment in my career. But I think if we'd have scored the first goal that day, we'd probably won the cup. But the first goal was massive. I think Jamie McAllister scored. I don't know if he scored
Derek
the first
Lilly, the first one.
Derek Lilly and Jamie McAllister. But I remember that Livingston team, and you were in financial bother at that time as well. And but that still sticks in my mind, that Livingston team. But you were. I remember after the game, I get picked for the drugs test. We'd been beat, so I had to go and Burton O'Brien. Bobo was a great player as well. And it was me and him. I know Bobo for school and all that. I've known for a long time, and all the boys were waiting in the bus for me, and I couldn't do a pee. drink bottles of beer, my phone's going, hurry up, they're all gutted. And I had to sit with Bobo, he was sitting drinking champagne and all that. That was a really, really good Livingston team, and you were part of that then.
And that goes, I'm maybe doing the club a disservice with saying the young players couldn't get in the team, but maybe that's the reason. Like when you seen, and then there were the financial problems were there, so did they decide to just go with the experienced ones on more money to make sure they would try and stay in the Premier League? That same year they lost in the semi of the Scottish Cup as well, I think, to Celtic.
So seeing that league, we obviously talk about young players having opportunity. They've obviously went down the experience route. So they've won a final, got to a semi-final, and stayed up on the last day. Is that the same season?
No, that was after that.
No, that wouldn't have been the same.
That'd have been a few years after that.
So they were pretty consistent at that.
Well, the first year in the Premier League, I don't know if it was called the Premier League or the SPL, whatever it was, they finished third.
That's right.
Like their first season coming
Big
up.
Leash, Jim Leishman. Aye. Livingston were a strong team at the time. How did your move to... You get into the first team at Livingston, how did your move to Coventry come about?
We played them in a pre-season friendly. They come up, which I think Chris Coleman...
In the Championship, League One at the time?
Yeah, Championship. Chris Coleman liked doing it, I think, because I come up once as well when I was there, but we played them and I must have done well. And then I was out of contract. I was free of I think I was 24 at the time, so past that, and I knew for 3 or 4 months they were coming up watching. You get told for agents and whatnot, so but just that and playing every week. Thankfully at that point I got a good run as well in terms of injury.
Who was in beside you at that point in the team?
At that point probably Chris Innes had been the other centre back, and Dave Mackay at the other side. So but maybe by then I had played 100 odd games, which isn't a lot when you're 23 or whatever either, but probably I got a good run at the right time with them coming up and being there and being in the team week in, week out, just fitness-wise, was massive for it. And I signed a pre-contract in the December and the move.
So you played 100 games by the time you were 24 for Livingston?
Yeah.
Did you play 100 games by the time age were you? 33? 32?
23, did you say that?
33?
33, I was checking.
I'm only joking, by the way. No, but so that was your big move down to Coventry?
That was great.
Was it a big jump in wages from Livingston to Coventry?
Yeah, it certainly was. And
He's not going to tell us, is he?
No, a big jump in everything, to be fair. Like you're going down, and again playing. It's not been disrespectful. I certainly can't sit here and what I'm about to say. It's not been disrespectful to Dunfermline, but we played Dunfermline, and I say a Tuesday night at Dunfermline in front of 5,000 or 6,000 fans, and then fast forward 10 days, because by the time the contract all get done in the last day, by the time you're in the team for the next week, we're home to Wolves, who were flying high at the top of the Championship in front of 25,000 or whatever, and that was different for me. Obviously I'd played at Celtic Park and Ibrox for Livingston, but going down there and it just being the norm, that was tough, so it was a big jump in everything.
Was the training ground, did they have the training ground that they had with you through the wee wooden gates?
Sky Blue Lodge?
Aye.
You been there as well?
I've not, but I know the one you're talking about. Was within the Rico Arena at that point?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, did not look. At the time they had some.
A nice city, Coventry.
It was good.
Life and stuff like that. Nice place to live.
Leamington was nice.
Leamington, aye.
Warwick near it as well.
Yep, good, lovely bit. Places to go out, and it was the weird thing about it as well. As much as you say, like, it's a big club in the city, and it is. It's one city, it's one club in the city, and it's a big club at that. The clubs that you see when they've been at Wembley the last couple of years are taking 35,000 to Wembley, but you never really got bothered at all.
Were you single, didn't you?
No, the missus came down with me.
You do walk into that Rico, don't you? Or the pictures, because they have had success over the years, or are in the tunnel.
No, it's a huge club, like in terms of the FA Cup win, everything about it. Like and it's a big city as well, and they're just desperate for success.
Chris Coleman was the manager. How did you like him?
Brilliant.
Good manager.
He was superb. He was there at the start, just really honest, good with you. And we had good players as well. That if you were going and knocking on his door and asking why you weren't playing, and he didn't. He had it. Certainly with people like me, maybe the other ones are a bit different, but you just need to tell you who was playing in front of you and you kind of would accept it. And no, he was brilliant, really good as a man, the way he would treat you. And Steve Keane at the start was his assistant, and Keano moved, and he went through another couple of assistants, and things weren't quite going to plan for him. But delighted to see what's happened to him after that as well, because it was a sore one for him at Coventry. But he's come back and went again.
Did you pick up any injuries there? Were you fit for the majority of the time at Coventry?
I had about maybe a season and a half fit, and then that's where the back injuries started. So had the surgeries down there, and resulting in coming up on loan to Hibs off the back of the back injuries.
See with the, how did you find, obviously, because when I went down from Dundee United to West Brom and then done all into Portsmouth doing the Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, because it is a lot more intense. I think that had a factor on some of the injuries, or did you just think it was just a bad luck case?
Certainly with the back it was bad luck, but any other wee niggles, the one thing I do, and I fully believe it took me a while to get to the speed of training, never mind the games. Now I was straight in the team when I went down.
Intensity and the levels.
Yeah, and it was like every day, and we've all been there where you can coast through training for whatever reason, whether you're carrying a knock, whether you're just coming back for injury, but every day at training down there I felt with the jump, it maybe changed through time when I got used to it, but I had to be on it. Like I was going home for training knackered, and everybody will say that's the way you should be, and there's ways of doing that. We get in the gym, we doing, but I just mean it might have been a lighter session on the Monday after the Saturday game, building into Tuesday, but just the intensity of the better players. Aye. And again, that's no, because I played with some really good players at Livingston, but just everybody at that time were.
The variety of strikers in that league for a start.
Mostly big and strong, quick.
All different. Probably the variety of different type of strikers you would come up against in that league.
That first game was I don't know who was in the Dunfermline team in my last game, but to jump for that, to then go and it's Ebanks Blake and Chris Ibaluma, who are at that point
flying.
Yeah, they're ripping the championship up, and they did that full season. So, and there were a lot like that. Like as you say, the wee strikers were big and strong. Like it was just that it was an eye opener.
Your debut for Hibs, how did that move come about up to Hibs under the loan deal?
I had the surgery in the summer. Got back and I was on the bench and doing Andy Forn by this point. I think it was because Chris Coleman had left, and by this point I'd signed a new contract at Coventry as well, just before or just after the surgery, I can't really remember. But got to September, October time, and I wasn't getting the minutes that I was kind of chasing off the back of a prolonged period out as well, that I felt I had to play, and it was solely to play. Like I was desperate to do well at Coventry. I still had 2.5 years or whatever it was in my contract down there, and I just felt the need to get out and play on loan. And I got a phone call that Hibs and Hearts were interested at the time, but just looking at it from the outside at that point, Andy Webster, Zal Lucas, and at Hearts, they two were going to play. Solely for me, it was about getting out and playing, and that's not being disrespectful again. I keep saying this, but it wasn't looking at Hibs and saying I'm going to definitely get in there and play, but it was just.
Well, that is why you make decisions based on things. You look at where's the easier route sometimes, because
I needed that at the time.
You're just winning the games.
Yeah, because I wasn't off the back of a lot of games where I could have said, right, I'm fit, I can go anywhere and challenge people. I wasn't. I played maybe 5 or 6 games for Coventry that season, so I knew I had to get out and probably prove to myself that I was fit again, because that was a lingering doubt in the back of my head as well, just over the back and the surgeries that had happened to it. So no, it was a move that, and I'm sure stuff will come up here. It didn't quite work out in terms
of... Your debut was against Rangers, red card, unlucky?
Yeah.
2 yellows?
2 yellows. And I think 4-0.
Easter Road?
No, it was at Ibrox. So coming straight up and getting in, and a lot of things go around about that. You're standing in the dressing room right before the game, you get asked to be the captain, you're desperate to go out and do well. And
this is you just in the door?
I was only there 2 or 3 days. So you go out.
Pat Fenlon?
Yeah. And I was probably trying too hard. For a number of reasons, I wanted to prove I was fit. I wanted to prove to everyone at Hibs, because I knew the players for a couple of days as well, so you get that wee bit where you want to go out and
want them to think you're good.
He can maybe help us. We were in a position at the time where it was precarious, to say the least, where we were in the league. So yeah, two bookings and sent off.
Who was your centre half partner that day?
I think it was Sean O'Hanlon. That might have been the only time. I'm sure Paul Hanlon played left back that day, but after that it was kind of me and Paul Hanlon going forward. So, and again, as much as there's a lot of negatives to talk about for my time at Hibs, a fantastic club, as you two. Everybody I think that goes and plays and has a period of time there, you just rave about being at that place and just how good it is.
How did you get on with Pat Filan? What did you think of him as a manager?
Brilliant. I got on really well with him, and as I say, I've said this over the course of the years when you speak about just how he was with me as a man. Like, again, I brought that up with Chris Coleman, and I think that's important.
That seems to be this when you've obviously asked the questions about the managers. It's that personal touch, isn't it, that seems to stick out for
people that are straight with you and honest with you and tell you how it is.
And I felt Pat was that, certainly with me. I think coming when he first came in, it was a tough time where he came into Hibs at, and then the cup final, the 2 cup finals you get to staying up in the last day, which isn't acceptable for that club. And again, I can remember that feeling when it was Dunfermline again that we beat that day to the Monday night for us to stay up in Dunfermline to go down. And I seen the scenes at the weekend and people saying should they be playing Sunshine and Leaf when they beat Celtic. Well, we were playing it for staying in the league. So when you look at that, and I can always remember that, and with the cup final in 2 weeks, and Pat just been, you could see him like obviously delighted that we've stayed up, but he's walking about and going, this is where we're at the minute. So he had a huge job to try and turn that around, and he done it to a degree, obviously with a few big setbacks in there as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're going to have to talk about probably one of the most painful days in Hibs history, the 5-1 cup final. Your memories of that game?
Before it, thinking that we had a right
Before it, did you think one-off game you could take them?
Yeah, the games had been tight that season. I think I played in one of them at Tynecastle. I think we lost 2-0 in the game, but again, Hearts had all the stuff going on in the background as well. But when we won on Saturday against Aberdeen, and Hearts Celtic, when Beats scored the penalty and done that celebration on the Sunday. But any Hibs fan, it'll be different now because of the way it went. But us three sitting here, if you're in that position and you've got Celtic at that point or Hearts in a cup final, you're taking Hearts.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's the way we all looked at it. The season had been a nightmare in terms of two league games to go. You beat Dunfermline, you stay up. Again, a nightmare. We done what the job was to stay up from the ones that come in, but it's nowhere near good enough for Hibs. And then getting into that, it was a chance to finish the season on a real high. I think it had been 110, 111 years since they had won it at the time. So all of that, and we all know how big that cup is in there. We've all played in those games for Hibs. So it was before the game.
You opened the score in the game, did you?
No, I made it 2-1.
2-1.
Hearts went 2-0 up, and we were terrible in the first half. They should have had another goal as well. And then you think, right, we can't be as bad. You get yourself back in the game, and then it's a strange minute and a half of football. I score, and then you get the half-time break, obviously, and you come out a man down in a penalty. Danny Granger makes it 3-1, and that was a sore afternoon.
There was a lot of talk about bonuses and stuff like that. You know, rumours. Was that true? The kind of bonuses about people not happy with the bonus before the game. Do you think that affected the performance?
It certainly was true. I don't think it affected from when you got on the pitch. Like there weren't enough about it. It was kind of, I wouldn't say dealt with, but it was moved to the side pretty quickly the night before. It wasn't ideal. It got better the following year, just the way it was structured. But, it was a problem Pat didn't need the night before the game. It did rear its head, but certainly it never had an impact on that game.
Ryan McGowan scored in that game, as he always goes on about.
I know, still tweets about it
from a yard out.
I'm sure there was a big billboard in here with his face on it.
I think there was. Did you think that the fact that Hibs had lots of loan players and lots of loan deals, do you think that was a major factor in having? I mean, getting to a final is not a poor season for Hibs. It's you get into a final is a great achievement. But in terms of league campaign, you think there was too many loan players that didn't really have that effect, affliction with Hibs?
Definitely. And I can, as I say, it's no pointing the finger at him because I was a loan player coming up. And there are two ways to look at it. There was too many that there were some that come in and it didn't matter. Like for whatever reason,
going back to their club anyway.
And and maybe, look, I've never been in, I think when I was young I was on loan and then obviously at Hibs, so I don't know, but I just, when I went in I was desperate to do well for the start for that club. And it's not to say the ones, I'm not saying they were intentionally not trying or whatnot, but I just think when you've got that many, it can become a problem. But on the flip side, probably our most important player at the time was Lee Griffiths, who was on loan for Wolves as well. So there are two ways of looking at it, but there certainly wasn't that feeling that, to say when Hibs lose a game and you look at Paul Hanlon and Louis Stevenson and how it hurts him and what that feeling, and I'm going back even to 2012, whenever it was, to then, and seeing them when they were younger and looking just desperate to do well, and then you see the other ones that it's fine, they come up, you can live in Edinburgh and you can enjoy playing.
Did you travel through every day?
I travelled through.
Travelled through for Glasgow?
Yeah.
Did they have the training ground at that point at Trent?
Yeah.
So you didn't have that when I was there. We
From the corner.
we trained everywhere, well, the public parks. How do you look back on your time at Hibs? Do you think it was a success? Did you enjoy your time?
Loved it. Real pride in playing for that club, and captaining that club as well, and just being there. In terms of injuries, I think that was the problem there, and particularly at the end. I got another back surgery, but I wouldn't say it was a success, but a real pride in getting to play and captain that football club.
Just going on to, obviously, from Hibs to Dundee, did you feel going to Dundee, this was your kind of last chance to really go and make a real name for yourself in your career?
It certainly was.
Games?
Yeah. Now, probably at the point where when I left Hibs, obviously the club got relegated. I got surgery in December. I didn't play the rest of the season. I got back training, but we get called in, everybody get told that was the route the club was going to go down. We kind of knew that, what was going to happen anyway. So myself and Kevin Thompson went to Dundee, and if I'm honest, I think in the end, and it was a different injury, I played 50 odd games for Dundee. If I'm completely honest with myself, I wouldn't have bet myself to play those games, just in the way I was feeling, and the deal was structured towards that as well. It was,
you had to play.
Yeah, going in, like you have to play, but I went up, the back was feeling good. We had a good start to the season, and it kind of just kicked on for there.
Do you feel similarities, obviously, with James in terms of the highs and lows of your career? You know, picking up injuries. I don't know if have you had any kind of serious ones?
Not really been injuries for me, just obviously health.
Your health issues.
Things. Yeah, listen, I think it's constantly having to pick yourself up, but like I said at the top of the show, I think for me, when people had asked about regrets, I'm more going the fact that I'm happy that I had some of the experiences that I have had playing at certain teams, playing in certain type of games.
How early did those come though? When did that mindset come round that you can sit there and go, because I've just explained that, like Hibs, I was desperate to play, coming for Coventry and doing everything, go to Dundee, and I'm thinking it just rolled. Like I just played, and I think what you say is spot on, and I'm of that feeling now, but for me certainly it took being older. And did you feel that when you were younger as well? Were you sitting going, well, I've had this, with illness came, or how did you feel at the start?
It was like being diabetic and playing football, so I spoke about this a million times. When I went to a football...
When was that diagnosed?
3. So
Right.
but once I got into first team environment and there was fans there, I had to figure out myself how adrenaline from having fans in a football team affected my blood sugars. That was something I didn't find that out till I went to Portsmouth, and my blood sugars were rising at half time, and then it was starting to get cramps later on in the game. And that I had to figure that out myself. It was due to adrenaline and the effects that had in the body. So up and throughout my career, still to this day, like my whole thought before a game is what are my blood sugars for me allowed, so that it allows for me to be physically as good as I can be to last 90 minutes for per se. That was always my thinking. My blood sugars come before me even thinking about what I was going to do in the game, because I had to be there physically to then do the things I want to do, if that kind of makes sense.
See, when you were at Hibs, when was the heart issue diagnosed?
Was that
a club doctor thing? Was that just something that you went and seen him?
That was again me, just maybe because I was aware of my body. I started to came back for, so I'd scored 10 goals.
You were flying at the time at Hibs.
Came back for the pre-season, and I just very early on, felt very short of breath, I was getting dizzy spells, and but that was me again because I was quite hyper aware of my body because diabetes. I went to see the doctor, did a few things, the doctor said, right, send you down for the heart scan in London, and that's then when it transpired. So yes, I can totally get it, but it's not injuries as such, it's more health things, but I've seen it, as I said again, I've seen a lot of players who I thought were fantastic players who fell out the game very early. I can look back and pick out lots of different things from a lot of clubs, as we obviously have a laugh about sometimes, that I can look back on and be happy.
James, best player you played with?
Horrible question that.
Just put him right on him. I've not even given him a warning.
No, and for ones that, when you look in, Jordan Henderson was a teammate, and you look what he's went and done. I would say Lee Carsley, just for what he done in terms of helping me. As I've probably been on this show and said somebody different, but it's whatever's in you. I just think probably then he was kind of teaching me more of the game than what coach. And again,
he's not only been a really good coach as well.
Aye, brilliant. Yeah. But just what the way he would help you through games, and having him in front is like a defensive midfielder. Although he was a lot more than that, but just having him there and seeing the way he trained and the way he played the game, he was excellent.
Best finisher, I would suggest Griff.
By a mile.
Incredible talent, wasn't he?
Yeah, I would say the same.
Yeah, by a mile.
Griffiths would shoot through legs and that. I love strikers.
I used to shout at him to shoot for anywhere as well. Like, we were watching this just a couple of months ago in the office, and some of his goals he scored, and I'm going, why is he shooting for there? I think 'cause somebody's probably telling him to shoot. Like,
his head. That's
he's
what he was like.
Incredible. Like,
good character in the dressing room as well.
He was. Like,
he's quite quiet, Griff.
He was, and I've said this probably more when I was a player, and because the stuff would come out, whatever he was doing, or he wasn't turning up to whatever, and a lot of the time it was just nonsense. But he worked pretty hard at his finishing, at everything he'd done, and he was quiet. Like, it was never a problem, certainly for what I seen at Hibs anyway, and at Livingston as well, obviously.
What about a player in training who made you more times than not, you go, wow, like, taking away like the Lee Carsley types, but the guy who went, wow,
technically.
Aye.
Dorns and Snoddy.
I see it. Dorns was the one when I went to West Brom, and you'd obviously a lot of stars there. Some of the things Dorns done, well, anywhere near the edge of the box, whether it was killer passes or he was so accurate with his finishing. He was probably a big.
I remember playing against that. I think you were playing, James. I was at Dunfermline. He's beat us 4-0 at East End Park, and Dorrans ran the game. And we were, I think we were favourites to come back up. We had quite a strong team. Livingston battered us 4-0. And
was that the first time you'd kind of came across
two?
I think Dorrans scored 2 in Snoddy, and we were in the midst of Stephen Kenny get sacked shortly after. We lost 3-0 to Stirling Albion, 5-0 to Hamilton Accies, then 4-0 to Livingston in 3 games.
Right, good.
So you're talking about managers under pressure. Imagine Stephen Kenny at that point, but that was the first time that Dorrans had came to my attention where I thought, you playing the same, you hear things about players, young players coming through, and I think Griff was maybe playing that day and on the bench, and I remember seeing the wee boy Dorrans just running the game, thinking, he's a great player.
Player of the year on that one.
Aye, he was a good player. Just before we go into your own coaching, James, obviously Rangers have got a new manager in Barry Ferguson now. Do you think he'll do it, Rangers?
Look, it's an opportunity to go in. I think you never want to see someone lose their job, but when you seen the stuff at the weekend, and obviously off the back of the 2 results, it looked like something was going to happen. Looking at it again, from my point of view, it's probably a wise thing that they've done. They're taking their time to who's available really. And again, who can they go out financially afford that would be available to come in, and is that the right thing to do at the minute? Probably not. The league's done. All but the Scottish Cup's gone. They've got the big European game, which I think they'll fancy as well, to go and try and prolong this season and bring a bit of success and excitement for the fans. But he'll go in. I know Neil McCann really well, as does Scott. And what Neil is, he's a really good coach. Barry will go in, and you hear all the stuff he'll get in, and he'll bring the standards, he'll drive this. But that's natural anyway, because he's the level he's played at. And again, do
you think it'll be easier for him playing a better, coaching a better level of player, rather than, no disrespect to Clyde and Alloa, when he was working with lesser players? Do you think it'll be easier for him being a top player, going in and working with better calibre of players to get his points across?
I can only speak about that from my point of view, and he was a miles ahead of me could ever be in terms of a player, but there's two ways of looking at it. When you've got a young player or a player that's at Clyde or Alloa, it's easier to develop them, it's easier to try and get them going, but they might not be able to do the things you're asking. Going in there, you should be able to get them, but again, it's just the demands that, and you hear this, and I've heard this over the last couple of days, he's going to go in and he's going to drive standards. And Philip Clement would have been doing that, and people will say, no, well, the results, this, that, but like, he's been a top manager, he's worked at big clubs, so I think what Barry will go in, he knows the football club, I think that's important, as does his staff. They'll go in and they just need to make the players feel good about themselves again and going out. And
they've experienced.
The backroom staff, you think it's important for them, the backroom guys, obviously know Doddsy and Neil McCann?
Yeah, well, I worked obviously under Neil at Dundee and then Inverness with Neil and Doddsy, so, and they got a right tune out of us. He came in as an interim base, I think, when John Robertson stepped down for a bit, and that was after my heart thing, where I was just trying to see how I felt again, so we had a right good run under them.
How did they get a tune out of the players at that point when Robertson left?
It's the intensity. I think Neil McCann, I think that was one of his strong points. He is really intense. Maybe not for everybody, but for the squad of players we had, there was a real reaction to it. We went on, we played really good football. We were brave, played through the lines, as we'll say. That Inverness fans were really happy with what they were seeing. And Doddsy, from his point of view, I was on the set
bubbly
pieces.
Character.
He was like an NFL coach. The stuff I was getting sent home for the set pieces, but they worked. We were scoring with the boy Todorov up front. We were scoring a lot of goals for set pieces.
So Doddsy was really into the set pieces and detail and stuff.
And they were working. We were scoring goals off them quite regularly. So I think the one thing of the guys, they can stand there, and they've all been in the same shoes as the Rangers players, even at a time where there was far more expectation on a Rangers player at that time. So,
what's your thoughts on Barry's? Do you think he'll go in and do well?
Yeah, I think the balance of obviously Neil as a coach and a manager, experience, same with Doddsy, you put the three of them together, they'll all take good and bad things, the things they've learned from different jobs. They'll know this is a huge opportunity, and like you said, they can stand there, and they've all been in the same shoes as the players in the Rangers changing room.
Do you think if he does well, both of you, do you think if he goes in, beats Fenerbahce, maybe wins 10 or 12 games, do you think there'll be a clamour for him to get the job on a full-time basis from the supporters?
I think they go down the night, they start the game well, the away end at Rugby Park will be bouncing, rolls on to Saturday, and that's where I think Rangers have been good with what they've done. Something had to happen, whatever was going to happen. The people they've brought in, particularly Barry, the history with the club, right away the supporters are going to get behind that, and then it's just a snowball effect if he can do that. Scott's right, the coaching has to be bang on in terms of what they're trying to bring, and again it'll just be their ideas for what they've done.
It'll be really interesting to see tactically what they do, because
Barry was in his first press conference, he said you're going to see a clear difference.
Well,
he did say that yesterday.
Between Neil and Doddsy, who have watched different Rangers games, they've all watched the same thing, so same with Ferguson obviously does punditry as well, so it'll be really interesting, because we all sit here and we have opinions. You've now got the chance to go and see if you can get a tune out of this side. I'm genuinely really looking forward to it and seeing how they can affect this Rangers side.
Do you think it'll be a good move long term for Rangers if Barry does well to keep him in the job?
Well, I think first and foremost it's a hard one to answer, because right now it's interim basis. He obviously said himself he's taking game by game, but ultimately he will be judged off the Fenerbahce games and the games against Celtic. That will be the games, and amongst the away form that Rangers have struggled with this season, can they turn that around? If they do that, then they give themselves, they're giving the board a decision to make, and the fans will get behind them come the summer.
James, obviously there'll be a different board. It's looking like it in the summer for Rangers. You've obviously experienced that kind of change over at Dunfermline. Do you think that will be a big difference in terms of appointing the manager?
Yeah.
How did you get on with obviously the board and the new guys coming in at Dunfermline?
I only had one meeting via Zoom with the new board when they were in the process of, or close to taking the club over. The previous board, there was just kind of weekly Zoom meetings. They were based in Germany, so it'll certainly be the new board. I'll be looking at this, and again, that will be the reason that they had to do something, and the stuff last week about Clement staying in the European run, but then you get that result. So the new board will be looking at it. They'll have their targets, but they'll be interested as well just to see how Barry Ferguson and his staff do in the meantime as well, and that takeover will be happening in the background. But I think obviously not for Barry's point of view, but certainly for Philip Clement, it would have been a bit unsettling as well, particularly when you look at it and results.
Do you feel that as well when you thought there's new people coming in, possibly concerning for your own position?
Not in a sense. Look, if you lose your job, it happens, or if somebody comes in, but really deep down you know that, and he would have knew the same, and me and Dave had conversations about it, when you know that there's a takeover imminent or someone looking to sell the club, you need to be on it in terms of your results. You need to be picking up points, you need to be doing all the right things, and obviously at Rangers that would have been lingering over him, trying to get close to Celtic, losing to Queen's Park and results like that against St Mirren. So that's in the back of your head, and you're thinking not only are you thinking what's the board and the supporters thinking about this, you've got what's the new or the potential new ownership thinking about this. So it can be unsettling to a degree, and the more games you don't win, then it certainly goes, yeah.
Just talking about, you're obviously becoming Dundee manager, talking about Barry, your first game as a manager, how did you feel before it? Was it an excitement? Was it a nervousness? Just thinking, right, it's my head in the block now, I'm the one that calls the shots?
Nah, if we look at the one that was just the one for one game actually before I got the job, that was probably the easiest game I've managed at first team level. We lost the game, but Dundee were already relegated.
Right.
It was a chance to play the younger kids as well, and give it that had been playing. It wasn't a case of, and I've had this conversation with a few people that I didn't go out and say, right, Finlay Robertson at 16 is going to start in the middle of the pitch live on the TV to try and make me look good, because Finn deserved it. Because at that point I'm maybe thinking, if I do all right here, like Barry, if I can get this play, or one game albeit, but you get the feel good factor back or whatever, because no matter what happens, MD can go in at any point and there's a change. Because when a manager leaves, we've all been in dressing rooms, there's players sitting going, that's good, I might be in the team, I might get this, or he'll be off my case a wee bit. So it was just a case of getting in, getting them going. And looking back now, it was probably, and I can't remember at the time, but I had some big players here as well, like Darren Day, Kenny Miller, players in having to get in and take coaching. And again, that goes back to what we're talking about. Probably the good thing was the 3-4 years
You'd got experience of putting sessions on and speaking to players.
Small groups of first team players, and because if that was the case, then I think I would have crumbled going in, taking the team for a week without really knowing what I had done before, or having experienced it before, sorry.
You got Dundee into the Premier League. Was that your biggest achievement, and how did that, not come about, but what was your secret to your success that season of building a championship winning team?
Luke McCowan in that side?
No, he had signed the pre-contract, or the contract in the summer. He came the first year we went into the Premier League. We tried to get him and Allan Forrest, him and Allan Forrest, we tried to take along with Declan McDade, but look, stayed at Ayr United. We got him the next year. When
You got Charlie Adam in?
Charlie came in. Charlie was excellent. And again, going back to that and just looking at, you thought that was a big part of it. The senior players at that point, Charlie Adam, Paul McGowan, Dorans had been in and then left to go to America, I think at the time, or Australia, sorry. So the senior players were vital, particularly for the fact that it was my first job, and the senior players were really good. And then off the back of that,
Do you think that's massively important as a manager, that you've got good senior players? Do you think that's, for the dressing room, it's huge? Yeah,
for me it's one of the... And you can be a club like Dundee, who I think are excellent at it, like we spoke about, that are trying to bring youth through, try to produce your own players, but you still need, in my opinion, that experience. And I was looking at something the other day, and probably at the tail end of the season I was getting a fair bit of stick, because Charlie wasn't playing, but it was never really... I remember we left him out of a game at...
Did you have to manage him at that age? Did he train every day, or was he... Aye, trained every day?
Excellent in that sense, and looking at it as well, I think we were getting to the end of the season, he had come up, he had played a lot of football, and he was getting excited as well because it was a chance for him to his boyhood club, his kind of last club of his career as well, to get to the Premier League. So it was just managing that. But he was on the training pitch every day. He trained well, but it was never an issue. And it was a live TV game, and I can remember the BBC game, and it was a COVID time, so all the subs had to sit like spaced out. And the cameras panned to him, and I must have been watching the game later on. Saying, so he's a sub. Charlie Adam will not be happy. But again, we'd pulled Charlie the day before and explained the reasons, and he got that. And just that, Liam Fontaine, who played with Hibs, he was massive for us. Through that spell, we had Christophe Berra, who came in not that season, but the season before. So I've always, certainly at Dundee, been really lucky with the experienced players, but managing them. And then for me, like when you can manage them, they kind of take care of the dressing room.
Was it a sickener? Obviously, you got them promoted into the Championship for a long spell out of the Premier League. I remember getting relegated with Dundee. I think you were at Livingston at the time. I know how big the club is, but I think a lot of people thought it was very, very harshly treated in terms of your sacking at Dundee. What was your feelings on that at the time?
Yeah, it was difficult.
Did you see it coming?
Not right then, no. We'd had a few meetings, and to be fair, they had said we need to start picking up points, which we knew. I think we were 2 or 3 points ahead of St Johnstone. It's a bit similar to the way it is at the minute. And then we had the quarter-final of the last 16 of the Scottish Cup at Peterhead. But in between that, we had Rangers at home, say someone like that, and away to Hearts. The next 3 games, and then it was Motherwell and somebody else. So they're saying, like, concentrate, Peterhead, Motherwell, whatever. So we beat Hearts, we beat Peterhead, and then it came then. So probably the timing, looking at it, I can see.
Was there any falling out between you and the board?
No.
Just a purely football decision from their point of view?
Again, and that's maybe why and when you look at it, and I've been pretty vocal about it as well, I think we would have stayed up. But you're going to say that, you're going to back yourself, but solely from the position we were in, they eventually went straight down. Callum kept St Johnstone up in the playoff against Inverness, I think. So looking at that, we were ahead of St Johnstone at the time. We had picked up, players were coming back, so you're always going to back yourself. But again,
it turned out the wrong decision from their point of view, because they did get relegated.
Yeah, I think so, and they go in and it didn't quite work. But at that point, I'll always back myself and say I think but particularly going to Tynecastle and winning that game, and then you're in the quarter-final of the Scottish Cup as well. At the time we were hoping for a bit longer, but they made that decision, and that's what happened.
Just before we finish, your time at Dunfermline, obviously you got the club promoted from League One into the Championship.
Couple of good promotions in there.
He did. Done a really good job at Dunfermline. What went right at the start, and then kind of what went wrong towards the end for you?
I don't think at any point the recruitment we got right, even from the start.
Did the owners have a big part in the recruitment, bringing players in?
Yeah, I think at any club that happens more and more now. And in particular, I think when it's foreign owners, in particular, they run clubs differently abroad. So, and it might be the way Scottish football goes in time. But no, that was fine. I knew that was the task in hand. I knew that's what we had to do. I was confident going in. It was a few months after the Dundee job. Confident going in that certainly we could get out of League One, but on the back of that you had McGlynn and Falkirk, which was always going to be a big test. I think we signed 3 players in the first year, but at that point we felt the players were good enough to take us back to the Championship, and that was done. I think in terms of where the recruitment was right was the younger ones. Again,
I picked up a lot of boys from Celtic and Rangers, London.
Yeah.
Was that just contacts for your point of view, speaking to people? And
yeah, and I think the Dundee thing helped that as well. Just the fact that I think when Celtic or Rangers in particular, they look at a club, and not a lot of time it'll not be the biggest club. It'll not be the club that at times can pay the most money. It'll not be.
It's the path for the
kids. It's not the fashionable
they're
club.
going to play and get minutes.
They'll look, and to be fair to the Celtic and Rangers, they're on you when it comes to that. Like it's, if you're no, one example, Toby Olawiyemi, if I've said that right, I hope I have, the goalkeeper. Fantastic young goalkeeper, but we brought him in. he was only in the building 2 or 3 days, and he didn't play at the weekend, but Toby was always going to play when we brought him in, and he's continued to play. And you've got Darren's on the phone because people at Celtic are hounding Darren, which is right, because we had said he's going to come in here if he's fit and doing well. He's fighting with Dennis. If he's doing better, he's going to play. So that's proved that. But they're like that. But I like that because it was kind of your word with their word.
They cared about the player. They wanted him to do well.
Exactly.
And the player's got to train well as well. He's got to take care of himself so that
for
James
me
isn't put in the position where he needs to turn around and say, well, he's not playing because of.
That's where I was lucky though, in particular with Darren at Celtic. He was a loans manager. He might be that now, but he's obviously up a role as well. But he was a youth team coach, or that team, the B team, and
So he knew the kind of characters he was giving you first and foremost.
Not without trying to speak out of tongue here, but when I would go to Darren about a player, like, I'd say 9 times out of 10 Darren would kind of talk me out it, and that's the honesty you want. That's the relationships you build up, and just with getting that, and he'd say take him. So that trust was there, and that's the one thing we go back to. Yeah, I don't think the recruitment was right at Dunfermline from the start, but what we had done was a kind of, basically what I had said to them in the interview as well, that the way we wanted to do things was bring these younger players in. I think we got that right, and the ones that are there and that are assets. Obviously Josh Edwards moved, who was there before us, so that. But you've got players there that they've had bids for, and players that, when everything hopefully gets sorted and gets settled, young players that can kick on as well. And we've sat here and talk about Roberts and Cameron. Hopefully in a few years we're talking about like Ewan Otto, Matty Todd, Kane Richie Hosler at Dunfermline as well, going and getting moves, because for me that's what clubs need to be doing at that level of football in Scotland, in my opinion.
Just finally, before we finish, the Championship this season seems to be going down to the wire. 3 clubs in the mix for it to win it. You've obviously got experience of coaching this season in it. Who do you think is going to win the Championship?
I've said from the start, I thought Livingston, and they find ways to win games. And that's not a slight on Davy. Yeah. He's done a great job again. That's not easy. I've been there coming down and trying to then mount a title challenge when there's other, like sometimes you're in the Championship and there's not really a title race. Well, how often have we seen that? I've been involved in it. Well,
bigger clubs are down there. Yeah.
Dundee United have ran away with it in my time in the league. So I think for him to come down and maintain it, along with Falkirk, who on their day, for me, they're the best team in the league by a mile on their day. And John McGlynn's, he's an exceptional coach, manager. He gets it right. And you talk about recruitment, they done it the right way. They come up, they built on the League One winning. Yep. Similar, but we lost 1 game, they didn't lose a game, but they come up, they built on that. They've jumped again, but not only that, I think what might sway it for me now is Arfield getting in there. Yeah. But just because you're looking at it, you see the Livy team, with the players have got in there, Ryan McGowan, Shinnie, a lot of experienced players that have all been Premier League players that know what it's like when it gets to, you're trying to get in the top 6, you're in latter stages of cups, or you're trying to stay in the division. Maybe not at the top end of the Premier League, a lot of them, but for to be at that level, or the top of the Championship, they know what it's like. And my worry, because as an ex-Dunfermline manager, you're never sitting here saying you're happy with Falkirk are top of the league, but if there was, no, John McGlynn's excellent, and we've had some great, in terms of battles, footballing battles, and it wasn't much of a battle, we just stopped them playing. And but because he's a great man to speak to as well, and huge respect for him. But looking at that, I'm thinking, in the Huttawee slump, they lost a couple of games, and you're thinking, what happens?
Do you think Livingston's just that wee bit of experience and will get them over the line?
I did until Arfield comes in.
Do you think Arfield maybe sways it back into Falkirk's favour?
A game changer, isn't it?
What about yourself, Scott?
Falkirk for me.
Do you think Falkirk now because of Arfield, purely because of that signing?
I've watched a lot of them this year. I think they've got that good mix of, obviously you bring an Arfield into the mix of young players who have been at bigger clubs and not quite hit the heights that they may be expected to, and now they look hungry, obviously wanting to progress their career further. I think that's a good balance, and for me, play the best football. So I'd quite like to see Falkirk in the Premiership.
Boys, we could talk all day. It's been a brilliant chat. Thanks for Scott for coming in, and particularly for you, James. I hope you're back in the game soon. Listen, thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you.